What about LSU? I mean, LSU won the West last year. This past year, you saw them produce a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. You saw them put up monster offensive numbers. Defense probably about as off the pace for the LSU standard as any we've seen in a long time. There was a lot of talk, and still is, about what will be made of that staff on that side of the ball. But in the meantime, we're looking at the class that they're bringing in as we sit here, and it's just after 1 o'clock on the East Coast on signing day. They've got the 13th ranked class per the 24/7 Sports team rankings. Thoughts on this class right now?
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle, right? Like Brian Kelly shot out of a cannon in year one. They had a top 5 class, and everybody said, all right, well, that puts that to rest, right? Brian Kelly, the recruiter, we know he can do it at LSU. I want to see that year in and year out because they're capable of doing that. They continue to accentuate their strengths. I'm still worried about some of their weaknesses. What are they doing at the defensive line?
Yeah.
They don't have a defensive line coach there. What are they doing at the second level? They got some guys coming in. We've mentioned guys like Devon Keys, Tylan Singleton I really like. They'll upgrade there. Guys like Dashawn McBryde, they have some players. But this is a place that went by DBU. Where are those guys? I want to know where those guys are. You know, they had guys like Kai Bates. He flips to Florida State. They had guys like Andre Evans. He goes to Georgia. They got to buckle down at some of these positions. They used to be a machine and a factory when it came to first level, second level, third level defenders. That LSU you saw last year under Matt House, unrecognizable, right? So they got to get back to that. What's funny about LSU, it seems to be what used to haunt the program, offensive line recruiting, has now become the thing that they are the best at, right? Receivers, it seems like that's no problem under Cortez Hankton. Joe Sloan has done a tremendous job along with Mike Denbrock at quarterback. What about the defense, right? That really kind of sets the ceiling for this team. Offensively this year, guess what? Jaden Daniels not coming back. He won the Heisman Trophy. You take away his legs, that's taking a big part away of that offense. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Garrett Nussmeier, which teams are going to have to play him a lot differently than Jaden Daniels, and I think they're happy about that, right? So I don't know. I like it. I don't love it. And I think if you're an LSU fan, you're going up against Texas, Oklahoma. Those guys coming to the SEC, both those guys into the top 10, it's kind of like, where do we fit in on this? Are we 1A or are we 1B, right? And the expectations in Baton Rouge are compete for national championships.
So I know Trey Scott's down in Fort Lauderdale somewhere listening. He'll be able to attest to this. Big Texas guy. Remember when Texas used to be in turmoil and everyone would say, oh, but they recruit well, so the recruiting rankings must be flawed, or they're very overrated. Well, it was never that. It was, have you recruited in a complementary fashion? Or did you just recruit a bunch of ornaments, a bunch of wide receivers and DBs, but you couldn't really get it done at the line of scrimmage? When we scroll through this LSU class right now, that's kind of the way Texas used to be. Class that's going to be solidly inside the top 15 or top 10, but when you start looking for bodies that you expect to be in an LSU signing class at the line of scrimmage, granted, not complete, but combine this with the effort on the field last year, the kind of bodies and players you would expect to be there, not there. So on paper, rankings-wise, going to be a good class. But you got to get in the weeds a little bit like you're talking about. Show me how you allocated at specific positions, because if I got just a big circle with nothing in it on defensive line, or I've got guys that aren't difference makers there, you're sacrificing a whole cycle at that position. You either got to recruit over it, or you got to deal with more of what you dealt with last year.
Where are you addressing the needs? That's what I want to know. If you're talking about continuity and you're talking about, hey, we got our guys coming back, well, to be frank, those guys weren't really good last year, right? So the continuity thing, throw that out the window. I wanted to see them be more aggressive. I don't know what LSU is going to do. I'm surprised Brian Kelly didn't make staff changes after what we saw the last game of the season against Texas A&M. I think LSU fans were pretty tired of seeing that all year. So I don't know. There is a higher standard to be had at the point of attack on the defensive side of the ball. They have to get that right, and especially in the secondary as well. That's been something that has really been an Achilles heel under Brian Kelly the last 2 years. He's got to get that fixed. That's the biggest thing. And the other side of it, give Brad Davis all the flowers you want. That guy's been unbelievable, probably the best position coach there outside of Denbrock and Sloan, who've been unbelievable as well. So LSU, they're interesting, and here's the thing. He's going to win 20 games in his first 2 years, right? And I'm over here talking about it needs to be better. That's somebody from New Orleans who went to LSU. That's the expectation around that place.